Hello, all. My name is Billy McDonald, and welcome to my brief presentation about some of the important aspects of intercultural communication. With new technologies, the internet, television, and our social medias, we are most certainly diving into a more diverse world as we journey into the future. Now, some of you may be asking yourself, why do I need to know about intercultural communication? I am, after all, a US American, and we are one of the most diverse nations in the world. There is no need for me to study intercultural communication. I am already all set. Well, you could not be farther from the truth. And with that mindset and attitude, you are surely to find yourself in a bit of a conundrum when it comes to communicating interculturally or communicating effectively at all for that matter. Which brings me to my first aspect to know self identity. Who are you? Who am I? What are we? I understand, in understanding a person you are communicating with, it is important to understand the identity of that person deems important. In developing our self identities, we require many of the rules, values, and beliefs we have through our families and the family systems we grow up with. Identity can be broken down into two parts. First, social identity. This is cultural or ethnic group membership we identify with. This can be anything from a sexual orientation, our religion, or social class. Second, our personal identity. This is how we view ourselves. This is anything from seeing ourselves as being smart, loyal, athletic, funny perhaps. These two identities are what builds our self conception or self image, if you will. And while these identities are important to know and understand, it is also important to know that there can be great fear amongst individuals when it comes to communicating with others that are culturally different or they are part of an outgroup, as it were. And this fear can be derived from our own bias and prejudice, which brings me to my second topic, conflict. How conflict is developed and how we can manage it. In communicating interculturally, it is important to know we will have to endure and, more importantly, manage conflict that are sure to arise. How does these conflicts arise, you might ask? Well, to begin, this can be from a number of factors. Firstly, there is ethnocentrism, which is how we see ourselves as more important than outgroups, as well as in-group favoritism, which is our positive attachment for the norms of our in-group. Going further into the cause of conflicts is our prejudice, and there are many theories and approaches to where our prejudice are derived. There is authoritarian, authoritarian personality approach, which more or less focuses on personality features. The structural approach, which is the old pecking order, who is more pure than the other. The exploitation theory or glass ceiling. There others see themselves as better because of higher status or power. And the scapegoat theory, where one blames outgroups for their own misfortunes. Then there is discrimination, which can both individually focus on community or community-based. There is isolated discrimination, where one is intentionally harmful to outgroups. Small groups discrimination, where small groups are individually or intentionally harmful to outgroups. There's institutional discrimination, which is completely community-based discrimination against an outgroup, and even indirect institutional discrimination, which is the complete, unintended, and unknowing discrimination by an entire community. With so much cause to conflict between outgroups and in-groups, it can feel quite overwhelming on how one is to mitigate fueling conflicts from happening in the first place. To start, it is important to know that prejudice is so often derived from the lack of accurate knowledge of a particular outgroup, and to acquire this knowledge takes time and energy we so often are reluctant to put forward. But there is hope. We can begin to reduce prejudice and discrimination by first being honest with ourselves and checking with ourselves before passing judgment upon others. Having cultural empathy can help us to learn and understand accurately our self experiences we have with other cultures, and applying a bit of mindful listening is sure to help not only from your perspective, but others' perspectives when conflicts do arise from time to time. Moving along to our final topic in our presentation: nonverbal communications and paralanguage and the complications that can arise from it. To begin, it is important to note that it can be easy to misinterpret the meaning of gestures and the articulation of a particular phrase when one is unfamiliar with another's cultural codes. Nonverbal gestures and hand signals can have vastly different meanings in different cultures, and all too often these nonverbal messages are assumed to be trustful than verbal messages themselves. This means you could be communicating the wrong message unintentionally. So, now, for this example, I want you to put yourself in a position of a team leader heading an international video conference call where you are speaking to a wide range of ethnically different people from yourself. You are laying down the plans for your team's next big project when one of the team members replies, "How are we to determine that this plan will be successful?" You freeze and think to yourself, what on earth could this bloke possibly mean? Determine. I have never heard such a thing. A wrong reply would be, "I have no idea what you're talking about." How is this a wrong reply, you may ask? Well, your team member knows what he or she is trying to communicate. So their intention or interpretation of your reply could be one from a power standpoint, as in, "How dare you question my plans?" This communication exchange would surely go downhill fast. A more accurate reply would be, "I apologize, but I am having a difficult time understanding your meaning. Could you please provide more information so I can have better clarity?" From which he replies, "How are we to assure the plan will be successful?" In a bit of embarrassment yourself, you realize at this moment, ha! The old being meant, "How do we determine?" Determine is how he pronounces determine. Good thing I asked for a little more clarity. So often do conversations go unintentionally the wrong direction by us reacting and replying to others in the wrong manner. This too is true with hand gestures and postures as well. For example, the hand gesture for "okay" in the US would mean money, or "how much money do you make?" to someone that would be from Japan. Extended eye contact could also lead to some undesirable outcomes, as the Japanese culture sees this as a sign of disrespect and being rude. It is important for us to know that there will be times when our communications go poorly and or we are faced with embarrassment, and when they do, we extend patience, understanding, respect, and open-minded attitudes so we can begin to establish good mutual working relationships into the future. In conclusion, I hope you have enjoyed this brief presentation of a few important aspects I found in communicating interculturally. Remember, cultural empathy is a learned ability that can help us understand accurately our self experiences of other cultures. Being open minded and extending mindful listening during conflicts not only benefits yourself, but others as well. If we understand and apply these aspects in our everyday life, we are assured to lead a culturally enriched life as we proceed further into a more diverse shared culture. Thank you for listening. Bye bye now.